Hi, and welcome to CryptoBiography. I'm your host, Brandon Starr, and this is The Island, Part 9, and it's episode 162. And writing this has been interesting because it's one of those times when the story I thought I was going to write turned out to be not quite the story I ended up writing. And this episode is especially part of that, which is kind of cool. It's also expanding a lot more than I thought it would. I thought it'd be one of the shorter ones, a few episodes, and then it would be done. But no, now I don't know how long it's going to end up being, but that's okay. I still have several, story points ahead of me that I know about, and I'm willing to, find other things again, the way I have been, especially this week, like I say. And I hope you like it. And Marcus suggested that I take the longer, especially this story when it's done, and put it together into one, longer episode. So if someone wanted to listen to the whole story, they could do that with one episode instead of having to make sure that they got all the episodes and, listen to them in order and so on. And that makes sense. So I think I will do that. I don't know when this story will be done, but I think we could do that. And then I could probably do that with some of the other long episodes from before as well. There's been a few others that have been 8, 9, and even a little bit longer, I think. So anyway, right, so we're going to get going. This is The Island, Part 9. That night, after starting the salting of the unsold fish, Carden asked Aaron to tell him his story. Aaron was mending. He still wasn't strong, but the few days that had passed had seen him at least be able to walk some and put some color back in his face. The berry bushes on the island were starting to bear fruit, and the children were stuffing Aaron full of raspberries and blackberries. They were also still finding cherries, though it was late in their season and also loved by birds, but gave some of them to him as well. Many others went into their bellies or went to Gwen, who started making jams and drying them. That night, after their meal of fish and tubers, but after Care was sent to bed, Carden asked the older kids to play outside, then broached the subject with Aaron. I learned some upsetting things today at the market. First, the Potentions wouldn't buy from the islanders until the Potention fish markets were closed. Then I went up to the church on the biggest hill, and it sounds like they expect everyone to be a Potention before long. Aaron nodded. That's their plan? Yes. How? And what else do you know about them? Everything. Aaron took his time gathering his thoughts before he continued. I'm the son of an elder. As I'm an adult, I was expected to choose a wife and then, once I was a parent, become an elder myself. An elder is a leader of the religion, he said, explaining. There are various levels and duties. My father, Peter Wright, is in charge of ensuring devotion. Ensuring devotion? Gwen asked. Yes, it boils down to punishing those who do something outside of the rules. And there are a lot of rules. And what are the punishments? That varies from fines and penitence, meaning working for the church in some way, to death. Death? Carden exclaimed. Yes. Especially for someone like me who leaves the church. That is absolutely not allowed, and death is usually the punishment. Unless you return with all shame acknowledged, you'll be punished, but you'll live. In fact, you'll be used as a warning to others, while being praised as a lost sheep returned to the flock. And you decided to leave the church? Gwen asked. Yes, Aaron said. Carden had the idea that Aaron was building up to something, so he said nothing, but instead got a glass of water from the kitchen. He handed it to Aaron. Need anything else? Aaron shook his head. Thanks. Gwen caught Carden's eye. She looked nervous. He just gave her a small nod, out of Aaron's line of sight. He was nervous, too. Aaron started back up. I was married 6 years ago. This was well before we came to your town. She was, like me, born to the church, her father, another elder. Mary's mother was much like mine, quiet and reserved, just what the church tells us to be the perfect wife and mother. Mary wasn't like that. She was outspoken, honest, and was willing to argue for her own point of view. I liked her from the moment we met. We were quite young then, only a few years old. As we grew up, I knew that my parents would make a match with the parents of a girl inside the church. Though I could not directly choose, I tried to give hints that Mary would be my choice if I could make it myself. We were good friends, and as good as the church would allow a boy and girl to be. I heard second-hand that Mary, when the time approached, flat out told her parents, "I want Aaron to be my husband." And after we were betrothed, she confirmed that story to me. I can only imagine what her parents thought when she said that. Perhaps she hoped that I, with my quiet demeanor and my parents' rank, and especially my mother's even more quiet nature, would help rein in her wilder side. Aaron laughed a single, humorous laugh. So we were married 6 years ago. She was 18, I 20. As two children of elders, the wedding was huge, with everyone in the church attending. Inside of a year, Mary had our first child, Thomas. Because we were now parents, after another year I was made an elder, if a minor one, and Mary became the wife of an elder. He had been looking at the floor, or off into the distance, as though he could see through the wall. Now he looked over at Carden and Gwen. "Inside our marriage, I think we were much like you." He looked specifically at Carden. "I've been talking with Gwen. I see a team of equals. That cannot be inside the church, however, so publicly I was the head of the family, she my support. I find the open possibilities of marriage here on the island fascinating. I must warn you, however, that my church won't see it as anything but a threat. In any case, as a minor elder, I was given a simple area to oversee, the religious calendar. I would make sure that everyone knew the upcoming holy days and what actions were to be taken to observe them. I had no say in it. I was simply passing along the information given by the Holy Writ. But I was proud. Mary was faster than I was to see the problems. I had grown up in a family where my father doled out the punishments, and so I had become numb to them. But Mary, her father's scope was watching the money. So she had learned over years that the money taken in by the church was being given not for general church uses, but to the elders, and really only the most powerful, including both her father and mine. I had been naive. I knew our family had been well off, but he was a store owner, and I simply thought he earned his money exclusively through the store. I saw him tithe. I did not see the money come back to him. She also saw the punishments given by my father and other elders, and was sickened by them. She had come to this realization even before we were married. I don't know why she chose me to marry. If I had been unbending like my father, it would have been painful for her. But she saw something in me. She knew, even before I did, that something about the church didn't sit right with me, and that I would want, as she already did, to leave it. She was clever, my Mary. It took years for her to make me see. She knew that just bringing the idea of leaving the church, that they were wrong, terribly wrong, would be unthinkable to me, raised as I was. So she supported me whenever I said something even slightly against the teachings, and questioned me, always softly, when I disagreed with the church when its stance was clearly unethical. Okay, I'm going to reread this paragraph. So she supported me whenever I said something even slightly against the teachings, and questioned me, always softly, when I disagreed with the church when its stance was clearly unethical. I came to the conclusion, so I thought, on my own. But when I told her one night in our bed, crying, that I didn't think I could be of potential any longer, that she was not shocked, but instead welcoming me. Hang on, something's wrong there. Okay, I'm going to reread this one too. All right. I came to the conclusion, so I thought, on my own. But when I told her one night in our bed, crying, that I didn't think I could be of potential any longer, I found that she was not shocked, but instead welcoming me, being already in that same place. I only put it all together later, how it had really happened. We still only had Thomas. Mary, sadly, after her first birth, started having miscarriages. As women were expected to have large families, we allowed this information to slip out to her family and beyond. The church tends to blame women for miscarriages, claiming it is their weakness causing them. But it still meant that we were trying to have children, and that protected her some, the better of two bad choices. Aaron stopped here for a while, and Carden and Gwen allowed him his time. It was several minutes before he spoke again, and he had drunk most of his water. Thomas was a wonderful child, looking mostly like Mary, with a round face and soft, wavy brown hair. I used to joke that he got my ears and everything else was from Mary. His ears stuck out a bit, just the way mine do. Thomas was 4 when the church decided to move to your town. Where we were before, we were just one church among many, and because of our strict rules, we were disliked by most outsiders. I was at the elder meeting when it was decided to move here. A few people from your town had come to where we were and been converted. They described the situation here, that there were no churches, just people following their own beliefs. The elders knew they could bring many people into the church, for all the usual reasons: support when disaster hits, socializing, and so on. The punishments were downplayed. Everyone would know there's no way out of the church, apostasy being one of the sins punished by death, but at first, with nothing obvious to dissuade them, people would join in droves, and they have. But Mary and I were close to deciding to leave, and that's when it all went wrong. And that's the episode for this week. Hope you're enjoying it. Tune in next week and we will continue the story of the island. And thank you for listening. Words and music, copyright 2020, CryptoBiography LLC, all rights reserved. Characters and events are fictional, fictionalized, or satirical.